Kendrick Lamar just lost something he was never supposed to lose. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly how the West Coast just walked into the loudest accident hip-hop has had in years. Before we get any further into it, I hope every single one of you is locked in and doing well, because for the meltdowns, the mascot row, and the comment section breakdowns we are about to walk through together today, listen, I am going to need every drop of energy you brought into the room. So leave a like, hype the video, and if you already feel like something about the way this leak landed does not sit right, really leave that like, because we are about to stand together and send a very clear message to a very specific group of cape wearers who have been working overtime this week to spin a story they do not have the receipts to tell. And while you're at it, do me one favor and tap that subscribe button if you have not already, because we are building something real here and you are not going to want to be the person catching up later. Okay, now back to the meat of it, because what just happened on the West Coast is not a leak. It is a robbery. It is a kidnapping. It is a song called Boom getting yanked out of a folder it was never supposed to leave. And the person who pulled the file is, allegedly, still inside the building. Let me reset the table for the people just walking in, because the timeline on this thing is messier than anybody is reporting. Earlier this week, a track surfaces. Kendrick Lamar on the front end, J-Rock in the middle, Vaughn anchoring the back. 3 voices, 1 record, stacked like a TDE family portrait you were not supposed to see yet. The internet frames it as a leftover GNX cutting room scrap. 30 seconds in, anybody with working ears can tell that frame is a lie. This is not a demo, this is not half-cooked studio runoff, this is mastered, sequenced, mixed for stadium air. This is the kind of file that lives in a folder marked Do Not Touch, and somebody touched it. And the response? Surgical. Interscope rolled in within hours. Platform purges, mirror links vanishing faster than the upload speeds could keep up with. DMCA strikes flying like air traffic control on a holiday weekend. That is not an "oh well, it leaked" energy. That is a corporate immune response. That is a label legal team pulling the fire alarm on the entire building. And here's the part nobody else is sitting with long enough. You do not chase a throwaway like that. You chase a chess piece. Now, I already know what some of you typed in the comments before this video even loaded. Kendrick leaked it himself. He's running the Toronto playbook. This is a marketing stunt. Look, I'm going to be honest with all of you. That take is the laziest read on the table, and we need to put it down right now. The Toronto playbook is a song that goes up, stays up, soaks up gray market streams, and converts into momentum. Boom is the exact opposite of that. Boom went up, and the exact same camp that benefits from it went hunting for every copy with a clipboard. You do not sabotage your own marketing stunt in real time. Either Kendrick has lost his mind, which, come on, or somebody else moved that file without permission, and the entire West Coast is now playing damage control on prime time. And listen, here's your first big receipt that this is bigger than a song. TDE Punch. The man whose name on a Kendrick rollout is basically a stamp of "this has been sequenced for impact," popped up online and said, almost out loud, that leaks destroy ideas before they get to breathe. Read that again. He did not say "this was not us." He did not say "this was not finished." He said the idea got destroyed. Ideas are plans. Plans are months of work. Plans have release windows. People who run labels do not get emotional about throwaways. They get emotional about strategy. Punch is not the kind of executive who raises his voice when a paper cup falls. Punch raises his voice when something he was building gets knocked over. And that right there is your first piece of evidence that we are not looking at a slip. We are looking at a breach. Now back up with me one more second, because the production on this thing is telling on itself. The track is built on a "Here Comes the Boom" cadence that is, and I am telling you this with my whole chest, a deliberate, almost shameless nod to the DMX hook from the Belly soundtrack. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And here's the angle nobody on the gossip side is connecting yet. DMX, before he passed, was openly critical of the Toronto artist whose name we have politely refused to type this entire video. He called him out in interviews, on stages, on clips that the algorithm has been quietly resurrecting for the last 12 months. So when Kendrick in 2026 walks into a beat and grabs the most recognizable DMX cadence in the late 90s rap canon, that's not nostalgia, that's a torch passing receipt. That's Kendrick saying in code that he knows exactly which side of a long argument he's standing on. And once that subtext is sitting inside the record stops being a throwaway. It becomes a flag. Now, I am going to be straight with you, because this is where it gets messy. If it is a flag, somebody planted it before the marching orders went out. Somebody in the room broke ranks. And from where I'm sitting, and I want every disclaimer in the world tattooed on this paragraph, this record was never on Kendrick's personal hard drive. The cast is the giveaway. Kendrick plus J-Rock plus Vaughn is a TDE-flavored ensemble. That is not a PG Lang ensemble. PG Lang projects feel cinematic, conceptual, deliberately strange. This sounds like a label single. This sounds like track 3 on a roster compilation. This sounds like a flagship for a quarterly campaign tied to a milestone the label quietly let slip past nobody. Read the room. TDE's 20th anniversary moment came and went without a flag. Coincidence? I am not so sure. So here is the read, and you can take this to the bank when more news drops in the next 72 hours. Boom was being held by TDE proper, possibly earmarked for a J-Rock rollout, possibly for a Reason debut, possibly for the long-promised label compilation that everybody quietly assumed was dead. Kendrick was not keeping it. Kendrick was lending his voice to it. And somebody on the label side, somebody who should not have had a copy or somebody who should not have shared the copy they had, just let the leash slip. But peep this, because the architecture of this leak does not perfectly resemble a clean accident. From where I'm sitting, and I want to put this gently because the building is on fire and people are still inside it, there is a real possibility this was sabotage. Not from outside, from inside. Labels are not monasteries. They are buildings full of interns, engineers, A&Rs, mixing assistants, PR consultants, and assistants of assistants. Every single one of them has touched a hard drive at some point in the chain. Anybody mad about a budget call, a credit dispute, a stalled rollout for their own client, anybody with a grievance and access could move a file like this in under a minute. And if Punch's reaction sounds personal, it is because for him, it is personal. Somebody in the building, or somebody who used to be in the building, just told him the trust is broken. Now this is the part where most channels tap out and chase the next thumbnail. This is where the real story actually begins, because the leak only matters because of what is happening around it, and what is happening around it is bigger than any one record. Watch what is unfolding on the West Coast in real time and tell me with a straight face this is a coincidence. 2 days after Boom surfaces, YG announces the Gentleman's Club album, accelerates the rollout, and drops a lead single called Insecure. And the features on that record are not features, they are a press release. 2 names you do not put on a song together unless somebody bigger than all of you is conducting the orchestra. Ab-Soul and JID. Let me say that one more time so the algorithm catches it. Ab-Soul and JID. JID on a West Coast album with Ab-Soul with YG under the unofficial executive wingspan of Kendrick Lamar, who has been quietly executive producing, advising, and shaping YG's last several moves like a chess grandmaster nudging a student through an opening. Nobody at TDE or PG Lang has stamped that producer credit in writing. They wouldn't. That is not how this stage of the operation works, but you can read it in the texture of every record YG has dropped this cycle. The arrangements, the restraint, the way the hooks resolve before they should. That is Kendrick's fingerprint without his signature. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And here's the kicker. Insecure is not the record anybody thought YG was building. Everybody expected a bar fest. 3 rappers, all lyrical, all with something to prove, all with a tribal flag to plant. What we got instead was a vulnerable, low-pulse, almost confessional record about each of their fears. Ab-Soul going somewhere fragile, YG dropping the armor, and JID of all people, the one with the most to lose by sounding soft, ending up the most unguarded of the 3. That is not an accident. That is positioning. They are building him a new room to stand in. They are stretching a chair across the floor and inviting him to sit down. Which brings us to the part of the story that has been buried under the noise, and it is, in my honest opinion, the most under-the-radar arc in rap right now. JID is auditioning for a new home. Let me say it again so the back row hears it. JID is auditioning for a new home. Not officially, not with a release, but in the way artists audition when they are tired of where they've been planted, by quietly choosing collaborators, by leaning into a different aesthetic, by saying things online that you do not say about people you still trust. About a month ago, JID went off. He lit the fuse. He blew the lid on a J. Cole verse from his Birthday Blizzard 26 EP, the one where Cole tossed JID a backhanded little compliment about being platinum if hip-hop was still alive. JID tweeted, JID deleted, the screenshot economy already had it. And the thing he said was not the thing you say about a friend. That was the thing you say about a person you stopped trying to protect. Now sit with this for a second, because this is where the story turns from a feud into a tragedy. J. Cole has spent years narrating, sometimes obliquely and sometimes plainly, that his career was shaped by a feeling that Jay-Z, the man who signed him, the man who put him on, the man who could have made him untouchable, never gave him the full push. Cole has carried that bruise publicly for the better part of a decade. It is woven into his music. It is the gravitational center of his interviews. And now, watch closely, because the man with that grievance is replicating the exact behavior that wounded him. JID is the most lyrically gifted artist Dreamville has ever housed. JID's surround sound was the kind of moment that breaks an artist into a different tax bracket. JID's Forever Story was a body of work that deserved a Cole cosign on his own album that simply never came. Cole's roster has, more often than not, treated JID like the prodigy who lives down the hall, talented, respected, but not protected. The falloff did not put him in the rooms where Cole built his major guest appearances. The Birthday Blizzard line was not a flex, it was a slip, and the slip exposed everything. A once-in-a-decade voice was muted by the man who was supposed to amplify him.
Read it again. Read it a third time. The prophet who complained about his own gatekeeper became one. JID is not beefing with Cole. JID is mourning a career that should have already happened. Which is exactly why Insecure matters. Because JID, in stepping onto a YG record with Ab Soul, is not just contributing a verse. He is putting himself in the room with the people who actually elevate their juniors. Ab Soul's loyalty to JID is documented going back years. YG's willingness to share a single with a non-West Coast rapper is rare and deeply intentional. And Kendrick's unofficial hand on the rollout is the kind of endorsement that does not need a press release. JID is signaling, without saying, that he is open to a different kind of family. Now, I am not going to sit here and float a TDE signing or a PG Lang signing as a guarantee. That is not the kind of move you announce by accident. And JID is still contractually tethered to a Dreamville structure that has invested in him for years. But if you ask me what JID's body language has been telling us across his last 3 song appearances, his social posts, and the company he is choosing to keep, I can tell you he is in the longest, slowest, quietest goodbye in modern hip-hop. And the West Coast is leaving the door propped open. If you want to see how serious this is, look at what JID has not done in the last 6 months. He has not appeared on a single Dreamville labeled rollout that was not already locked in months ago. He has not publicly co-signed a Cole release with the energy he used to. He has not, in any interview, gone out of his way to refute the perception that there is tension. Absence is its own statement when you used to be present, and the absence is loud. So now we have to ask the harder question, the one that should be making editorial rooms sweat tonight. Why is the leak happening now? Why is YG accelerating now? Why is JID drifting west now? Why is Punch publicly emotional now? Tally everything and the answer is almost embarrassingly simple. The West Coast, and I mean the entire ecosystem around Kendrick, not just Kendrick himself, is consolidating power for something larger than any one single album. There is a rollout in motion, a multi-artist, multi-album, multi-quarter campaign that ties together TDE's veterans PG Lang's experimentalists, YG's mainstream reach, JID's lyrical credibility, and Ab Soul's underground capital. You do not pull all those levers at the same time unless you are building toward a stadium-scale moment. And boom, premature, unauthorized, frantically chased down by Interscope was the first piece of that mosaic that escaped containment. That is why Punch is heated. Not because a throwaway slipped, because a chess piece moved before he had finished setting the board. Now, let me tighten the screw one more time. Boom, taken on its own merits, is a record that lives inside a very specific lane. Heart rate percussion, atmospheric low end, a side-to-side bounce engineered for arena hallways. Kendrick's verse leans into a battle posture, the big mouth into a Pop-Tart line, the rock bottom or rock star wordplay, the side-to-side hate and love bar that doubles as both a personal axiom and a swipe at anybody currently sizing him up. The second verse goes deeper, serotonin laced with godly vibrations, Alias, Gandhi, Gaddafi, King Tut. A sequence that compresses Gandhi, the pacifist, Gaddafi, the dictator, and King Tut, the boy pharaoh, into a single bar, telling you Kendrick is positioning himself as the man who has lived every archetype in the room. That is not background lyricism. That is a man drawing a fence around the entire history of leadership and standing inside it. J-Rock's verse runs an extended tripping on vacation laces conceit that doubles back on itself like a Mac Dre revenge reference dressed up as wordplay. And yes, the Mac Dre reference is intentional, because Mr. setting up Fat Tone in Vegas to avenge Mac Dre is exactly the kind of West Coast historical receipt these guys load into a verse on purpose. He runs an entire scheme where trip doubles as falling over your own shoelaces, and tying laces doubles as throwing them over a power line. Every line is doing two jobs simultaneously. Ray Vaughn's spin cycle and pig feet bars layer in a different texture, almost E40 in the back end, with a donut cop food image that flips police slang and West Coast car culture into the same syllable. 3 voices, 3 approaches, 1 statement. We are the room you do not walk into uninvited. And if you put your ear on the production for 1 second longer, you can hear what the engineers were trying to protect. There's a kick pattern that mimics a heartbeat in the verses, a layer of pulsing low-frequency atmosphere underneath the percussion. What sounds like an EQ-filtered bell hidden 5 layers down in the mix, and a string line that ducks in and out depending on whose verse is on. Whoever sequenced this final mix was treating the record like an event single, not a B-side. You do not put that much production layering into a song you intend to throw in a hard drive folder marked unused. You put that much production layering into a song you intend to sell. So, if you were building a campaign and you had a record like this in the chamber, you would absolutely save it for a moment. You would sequence it, you would seed it, you would let the visuals catch up to the audio. You would not let it leak on a random weekday afternoon with no rollout in motion, which is exactly why the breach matters more than the song.
Now, I want you to write 3 things down, because the next 72 hours are going to confirm or deny everything I just walked you through. Number 1, watch whether Interscope continues the takedown campaign or quietly stops, because the moment they stop is the moment they have decided to convert the leak into a real release. Number 2, watch whether YG's Insecure video drops with a JID guest appearance physically present in the visual, because that is a level of public endorsement that cannot be walked back. That is the soft launch confirmed in HD. Number 3, watch whether any TDE artist, particularly Reason or J-Rock, posts a snippet of an unreleased verse this week, because that is the tell that the label is opening the GNX cutting room floor for the broader roster. That is the moment the floodgates crack and we know a campaign is in flight. Any one of those 3 confirms it. 2 of them happening means the war is on. And let me say the part nobody else has the nerve to say out loud, the part the comment section is about to riot over. If JID ends up in a song cycle that includes Kendrick, even in a coaching capacity, even on the production side, even on a bonus track buried at the back of a deluxe, the J. Cole conversation gets rewritten in real time, because the question stops being, did Cole hold him back, and becomes, who finally let him out? That is a narrative shift the algorithm will eat. That is a narrative shift the comment sections will riot over. And that is a narrative shift Dreamville cannot afford to lose control of. Because the moment a generational talent walks into a different room and starts winning, every other artist on the roster starts auditioning for the exit interview. And the exit interview is the kind of meeting nobody plans for, the kind that happens whether you scheduled it or not. The thing I keep coming back to, the thing I cannot stop turning over in my head, is that hip-hop is in one of those rare moments where the surface story and the real story are running on two completely different timelines. The surface story is a leaked song and a few interesting features. The real story is one coast quietly absorbing a generational talent while another coast loses him by default. That is not a beef. That is a migration. And the man holding the door open is the same man who has been quietly running the room since the moment GNX landed. And here is the receipt I've been holding on to until the very end of this video, because I needed you to sit inside the full weight of what I just walked you through before I dropped it. From what I'm hearing, allegedly, and I want every single disclaimer in the world tattooed on this paragraph, the metadata on the version of Boom that hit the timeline carried a fingerprint that does not match the engineer credited on Kendrick's last 3 official rollouts. Read that one twice. The hands that touched this file before it leaked were not the hands you would expect to find on a Kendrick session, which means one of two things. Either this song traveled through a side door inside TDE that the official rollout team did not control, or somebody outside that team got handed a copy they were never supposed to see. Both versions of that story end with Punch standing in a hallway, lights on, asking the question every label boss prays they never have to ask. Who in this building handed our future to a stranger? And if that is the real story, then everything you see in the next quarter, every feature, every snippet, every cryptic Instagram post, every YG visual, every Absol tease, every JID hint is going to feel different. Because once you know somebody on the inside broke ranks, you start watching the inside instead of the outside. You start watching who is suddenly quiet. You start watching who is suddenly loud. You start watching who shows up where they shouldn't and who disappears from rooms they used to live in. That is the new sport, and we are all about to be unwilling spectators in a hunt the label is conducting in real time. Cards on the table one more time. I would love to see JID in that room. Not in a sympathy way, not in a hypothetical way, but because the version of his career this audience deserves to hear is the version where his ceiling is finally treated like a floor. I do not expect a signing announcement. The contracts likely won't allow for it. But the door cracking open is the more important signal anyway, because that is how careers actually pivot. Not with a press release, but with a feature, then another feature, then a third one, until one morning the timeline notices and the move is already finished. If you made it this deep into the video, you're the reason this channel keeps swinging at these stories from angles nobody else is taking. Push the video for me, subscribe if the bell hasn't already done its job, drop your read in the comments because I'm reading every single one. So tell me where you land. Tell me whether you think Boom gets a real release in the next 90 days or whether the label lets it die in the takedown queue. Tell me whether Punch's reaction reads as wounded strategist or wounded friend. Tell me whether Insecure is a one-off collaboration or the soft launch of a JID arc that ends him on a West Coast stage. And tell me, honestly, whether you think Cole has any idea what he just lost or whether he's about to find out the hard way, because the next 72 hours will tell you everything. The labels are quiet right now, too quiet, and the only people moving in silence are the ones who already know what comes next. Until then, keep your ear on the snare, stay on the right side of the war, and don't say I didn't warn you when the next domino falls, because trust me, it's already tipping.